What's up, fellas? Happy NBA Draft Eve. In this video, I'm going to be talking about all of the biggest trade rumors I can find leading up to draft night, players, picks, all that stuff. So we're going to be talking about today's video. If you're new here, what's up? My name is Tucker. If you like the video, leave a like rating on it. Check out my socials right here as well. Let's go and get started. Okay, quickly, before I get into this, there is no Bradley Beal stuff in this video. Pretty much all of my Bradley Beal thoughts were in a video from earlier this week. It's like a 15-minute long video. Ton of stuff on Bradley Beal there. If that's what you're here for, go and check out that video and then come back to this one. Okay, let's deal with the picks first, and then we'll talk about the players. So the top three of this draft, there's a lot of potential movement here. Detroit has been floating out some reports about the idea that they would be interested in moving the first overall pick in the draft, and maybe they're not entirely sold on Cade Cunningham. Initially, I thought maybe they were a little bit legit. It seems like these are just some smokescreen type things to see if someone's going to step up with a huge offer. See if Houston's going to say, hey, you can have two and three of the Brooklyn picks, and we'll take the first pick in the draft. I don't think that one is going to be moved at this point unless something changes dramatically. It seems like Cade Cunningham is pretty much locked in at number one. However, if someone was to move up, it seems like it would be Houston at two, but I think most of the intrigue, because of how much Detroit has been asking for the first overall pick in this draft, starts at number three, because contextually, situationally, we've talked about this before, the lottery really shook out in an interesting way, because Houston probably would rather have Jalen Green, but most people were thinking that Evan Mobley is the better player, but you don't know if that fits super well with Christian Wood, and maybe Houston just really likes Jalen Green a lot, and Mobley going to Cleveland at three is ideally what Cleveland wants to do, because then they're not adding another guard to what is already a situation with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. However, the rumors floating right now is if Mobley gets taken at two by Houston, potentially Cleveland could be looking to move that pick at number three, and there's potentially a lot of teams looking to move up to go and get that third overall pick. I think it really depends on what happens at two, where Houston kind of opens up the rest of this draft. Maybe they look to move this pick, but assuming they stay and they take Mobley and then Green is sitting there at three, there could be a lot of teams moving up. I think there'll be a lot of teams looking to move up regardless, even if they do take Jalen Green, but I think it's just much more likely that if they do take Green, that Cleveland stays there, they take Mobley, and then Suggs is probably at number four. But there's just a lot of movement, a lot more than I can typically remember, possibly with the first pick, but more likely with two and three, really most likely with three, potentially with Cleveland, just because of the roster situation and the prospect situation of each of those teams. The other interesting part of this as well within that top four is Toronto, and this kind of gets into the player stuff a little bit as well that we'll talk about. Toronto isn't like actively shopping for, but they're at least listening, because there's just a lot of different ways that Toronto can go this offseason, where there's Kyle Lowry sign and trade stuff that's a possibility, with some rumors about Kyle Lowry and the Pelicans having mutual interest, where they're going to try and throw a huge offer at Kyle Lowry. That's one of the reasons that they dumped all the salary they did in that Memphis trade earlier in the week. We'll talk about Memphis a little bit later as well. But they could also package Siakam in four for somebody, or just the fourth pick, or just Siakam. There's just a lot of different roster movement here with Toronto, where I think if there's one team that could potentially really have a lot of fireworks this offseason, it probably is Toronto. Again, with the sign and trade with Kyle Lowry stuff, Siakam being floated, the fourth pick in the draft being floated. Ultimately, the safe bet is they're going to stay at four. They're going to take Jalen Suggs. They're going to add him to their backcourt with Fred VanVleet. Ultimately, though, nobody has any idea what's going on, and if they trade four and Siakam for a big-time player, or if they trade back from four and get extra value, or they move up from four to two or three to get Mobley or Jalen Green, whatever the case may be, Toronto is certainly an active team to keep an eye on. And then, of course, Golden State. They're still working on trying to figure out what to do with 7 and 14. There's a lot of different theories about that. As of right now, it seems like they're staying put, but if they were to move 7 and 14, it would be in exchange for a high-level starter or a star-caliber player, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, things like that. I don't think it's likely that they trade for either of those guys, maybe Ben Simmons, but I think the Beal stuff, he hasn't officially requested a trade yet, and Damian Lillard's in Tokyo, so I don't think Portland's going to trade him while he's in Tokyo, right? So if there was a draft night trade involving 7 and 14 and things like that, you know, Wiggins, potentially Wiseman, it would probably be a Ben Simmons thing, but I'm not sure that Philly is incredibly excited about Wiggins and picks in exchange for Simmons when it comes to helping their team next year. They've already got a couple of young guys on the roster. It just doesn't work super cleanly, and I don't think Golden State's ready to give up on Wiseman, nor does Wiseman really help Philly all that much, again, because they haven't beat. So ultimately, if I had to guess, I would say either Golden State's going to use 7 and 14 to move up in this class, or they're going to stay put. They're going to try and get good quality players with some upside at 7 and 14, potentially look to move them later. But in terms of draft night fireworks for Golden State, it doesn't seem like the rumors are pointing in a direction of anything crazy on draft night for them. The last pick thing here before we get into some players that could possibly be moved, some guys that are linked here. The Grizzlies, who moved up to 10. We talked about, again, if you're looking for that whole, Grizzlies-Pelicans trade breakdown, I did that the other day. It's a super good video. Go check that one out. Memphis is looking to potentially move up again in this draft. It doesn't look like Eric Bledsoe is going to stay on the roster. They're going to go ahead and buy him out or get rid of him. So it was basically JV and Steven Adams, swapping those guys. There was the salary that was involved on each side as well. And then moving up to the 10th pick in this draft with the possibility to move up even higher. I don't know if they're going to go all the way up to like 4 or anything, but I think it's pretty clear that Memphis is recognizing that they like Jaren Jackson, but there's certainly not a guarantee that he's going to be an all-star level player moving forward, especially with some of the health concerns. And they need another guy, or they're just going to be kind of a middle tier team once they pay Morant, once they pay Jaren Jackson. I think they recognize a real need for another high-level talent here, and if they don't feel like they can get that at 10, I would not be surprised at all to see them potentially try and move up. They've got that extra Lakers pick that they got in that Pelicans trade as well. They could trade some of their own future picks. I would not be surprised at all to see Memphis be very, very active trying to get into this top 3, top 4, top 5 to go and get themselves another really, really good player. It seems like top 4 would be the place to do that. I don't know who they would necessarily be targeting because some of the backcourt fit is a little bit questionable when it comes to Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs. And then in the front court with Mobley, him and Jaren Jackson would be super fun and interesting, but I don't know if they're going to be able to move up high enough to be able to go and get him. But Memphis is a team, if you're looking at one that could possibly be moving up on draft night, Memphis is certainly a team that's floating around that idea that could be them. Now, as we get into the player stuff, I want to expand a little bit on the Pascal Siakam stuff here. It's really difficult to read the situation in Toronto right now because if Kyle Lowry leaves and you don't get compensation, let's just say for the sake of argument, Kyle Lowry goes to New Orleans on a big contract, you don't get anything out of him in a sign and trade. Is this a situation where Toronto's looking to potentially tear some things down and get out of the Siakam contract, get some value out of him, take whoever with the 4th pick in the draft, and then you've got, let's just say, for example, here, Jalen Suggs, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, and then Siakam just doesn't really fit in that. He's way more expensive than those guys, and he's someone that works really well within a larger team structure when everybody else around him is really, really good. But I wouldn't necessarily say that would be the case in Toronto, which just in terms of other top-level talent. So maybe it's better off for him to be somewhere else. Maybe that's a potential Golden State target, whether it be on draft night or otherwise, where they move on trying to trade for Siakam as the guy that they're adding to their roster. I think that would be a really interesting fit there for Golden State. The last bit of trade news here that I do want to elaborate on as we're leading up to draft night is there's been some really interesting Buddy Hield Lakers rumors. I've been pretty adamant on the idea that the Lakers are going to do something, but I don't think it's going to be as splashy as like a Chris Paul move or something. But the rumor that's been floated out about Buddy Hield is actually relatively interesting to me because I think Sacramento is one of the few teams that could see some value in a player like Kyle Kuzma. And given their backcourt situation with De'Aaron Fox, with Tyrese Halliburton, with having a top 10 pick in this draft, moving on from Buddy Hield, getting someone like Kuzma that maybe fits a little bit better as a wing or a front court player, and potentially some draft compensation, whatever the case may be. So whether it's Hield in exchange for Kuzma, the Lakers pick in this year's draft, and somebody else, maybe it's Talen Horton-Tucker or whatever the case may be, I think that's actually a relatively interesting and a realistic Lakers trade among a lot of unrealistic rumors and ideas being floated out there about what the Lakers could possibly do. I think Hield is an awesome fit because he provides a little bit of on-ball playmaking, but mostly a shooting presence that this team desperately, desperately needs. And we know that LeBron is going to do a fantastic job of setting up guys like Hield to be able to make a ton of jump shots, and that is absolutely the kind of player the Lakers need. If I was a Lakers fan and they ended up getting Buddy Hield for Kuzma and a first this offseason, I would be absolutely ecstatic. I think that's exactly what they need, especially if they can hang on to someone like KCP while they do it so that they can maintain some of those two-way wings that they're certainly lacking on this roster. And, Hield would certainly not qualify as that. And then they would have to figure out what to do with Dennis Schroeder beyond that. That starts to shape up into a really, really interesting scenario for a Lakers offseason. But those are some of the biggest trade rumors that I've been able to find leading up to this draft. Like I said, a ton of movement within the top 3. We've got multiple teams with multiple picks in the first round of this draft, in the top 14 of this draft, whether it's Golden State, whether it's Orlando, whether it's whatever's going to happen to Oklahoma City with all their future picks, whether it's the Cavs trying to figure out what's going to happen with Mobley and Green, and the Raptors shopping forward. This is one of the more active draft nights that I can remember in a long, long time. And maybe this is going to be the new norm with so many teams owning future picks. We saw how easy it was for New Orleans to kind of grease the wheels of that trade with Memphis by just throwing in one of those Lakers picks that they got in the Anthony Davis trade. I would not be surprised at all if we see a team like New Orleans, a team like Oklahoma City, a team like Houston throw in some of those extra future picks to be able to make a deal now and just continue to use those things on the edges to really go out and get a player that they are incredibly interested in on draft night. I can't wait. It's going to be super fun. It's going to be obviously a great day of content tomorrow leading up to the draft. And then probably that night, as soon as the draft is over, I'll have some content out there as well. I'm expecting some fireworks. I don't know if it's going to be anything crazy, but I'm expecting some real news coming out of draft night. And I can't wait. Hope you guys are excited as well. That is going to be the end of today's video. I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you liked the video, leave a like rating on it. Check out my socials. And yeah, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy the draft tomorrow night. And I'll catch y'all next time, fellas. Peace.